Hello everybody, and welcome back to a WARNO deck deep dive. This time for 6 US infantry, and this is a deck deep dive that I've really struggled to create, because I've played this deck a lot over the last couple of days, and I failed to play it. And my realization is, there's only one way to play it, and even that way is not amazing, but it is the only way, and that is air spam. It's air spam or bust, and you will see in this deck that I built everything around exactly that. So let's get in here and let's talk about the air spam deck that is 6 US infantry, together with a decent airborne formation that can give them the ground. So starting in the logistics step, we have M35s and Atari here. Atari as a quick resupply, M35 as a cheap option, pretty cost efficient, really solid supply here. That all works out fine. And we have a Humvee CV that is pretty good. 3 availability, it's fast. The 3 availability buff to the Humvee really helped it out as a card, and you kind of take it in every deck that has it now. So Humvee CV really doing a job. UH1, pretty cheap and also decently flexible in getting your rear points captured early on. So you can use that, especially on 2-ways or so, where the points are not super well connected by some roads to get those points. And it gives you 6. And then we have 3 more here in the infantry tab. We have another really cheap leader that also has a bit of AT and smoke, so actually can hold itself against some recon cars or so. And that is the fireteam leader. And for 35 points, and 3 availability, this is a great leader. Getting a 15-point transport is an extra on top, because that means you can get it for 50 points only in the early stages of the game, and that is pretty nice. So, infantry tab here. The early game is decided by the Humvee, the AB-2, which is nice to get around. The Navy SEALs, which come before deployment, and in positions where infantry combat is going to happen, they are amazing. And then Airborne Dragon, which can give you a bit of a holding force against light vehicles as well, and that is pretty important as well with this deck, as light vehicles are your biggest nemesis. So being able to deal with them is pretty important. That's where we also take the I-TOW here instead of the TOW2, just so we have something against light vehicles. Same role comes to both the Fireteam Dragon and the US Marine Corps security forces that are good holders, good at holding positions, can smoke themselves off so that the enemy has to push closer if they want to get rid of them. With the 84 here, a decent security squadron for the flank. And the Fireteam Dragon can hold enemies at bay, and comes with the COCV that also can give you decent fire support. And then we have some extra light rifles here. Light rifle law that is pretty good against infantry, and light rifle RCL that can help out dealing with light vehicles as well. Like, that's such a key factor here, because you don't have any good light vehicles of your own that you can use against vehicles, and your planes are pretty good against dealing with heavy tanks, pretty good at dealing with infantry as well, and your infantry is not bad at that either. Like, Navy SEALs are great there. So yeah, having some anti-light infantry capabilities here on the rest is pretty important, as you also don't have any super cheap ATGMs here, so the dragons and so on are pretty key there. Artillery, 1 mortar for smoke, and a 155mm artillery piece to get some kills. Pretty solid, but nothing super special. And then in the tank tab, no tanks, but ATGMs. The I-TOW as another cheap vehicle killer. Like, this is your cheap ATGM in the deck. And then the Humvee TOW as a bit more expensive, but really capable ATGM. And you can't really, as you will invest a lot into air and a good bit into infantry, you can't afford to spend super much on a lot of them. So taking them with 1 vet here, so that they are a bit more capable, even though it costs you 2 availability, the extra accuracy and the extra reliability is pretty key for me here. So going with the up vet on the Humvee TOWs. Could even consider going 1 on 2 vet here. And then Recon tab, and here you can see a lot of people use these M48s, and they're pretty solid. Like, the 19 pen is nice, but I still haven't found them so reliable that I want to play with them non-stop. So I went with only 1 card of them, and I found that the rest of the recon here is pretty important to spot for your air, to reliably get that done. And that's why I went with Pathfinders, as they're also pretty cheap. and they bring some smoke. I first started with the LRS, but I found I could never quite afford them. And yeah, I switched over to Pathfinders now. Alaskan Scouts, which are also able to keep enemies at bay with the RCL. And then a Scout helicopter and the A-10 that is spotting for itself a bit, and also spotting for the rest of your air plop. And the OH-58 Scout's really helpful there, scouting for your air force as well. So that is pretty key. And then we come to the AA tab, where there's another thing just done so we can support the air, and that is a IHawk on 2 veterancy. This is super important in the early game. Getting this IHawk into a good spot is important against decks that have good fighters and have good planes to try to assist your air force in the air and get that going better. And that's where this extra veterancy really comes in to make sure this thing hits things. And it gets the shot onto target and gets the hits there. So IHawk on 2 vet, and then the second IHawk on card on 1 vet, so that you still get 3 of them. And if you need more than 3, you do something wrong, because the game goes too long and you are in a weird position, or you lose them too recklessly. So yeah, IHawk with 2 vet, IHawk with 1 vet, and then Airborne Stingers here coming in, have forward deployment as well, can be nice with the push. So that is a pretty key factor here as well. Helicopter tab. You get a cheap Cobra of rockets. That is a fantastic rocket Cobra. You usually currently don't want to push into the gun range anyway, so being able to cut 15 points of this is another nice way of cutting a bit of cost here in a deck where infantry is pretty expensive, and the AT vehicles are also actually somewhat expensive. Recon is not super cheap, and your air is pricey, so getting a bit of points here on the Cobras is key. And the Tow Cobra is a nice anti-vehicle unit there that can hold the line whilst you wait for your planes to reload. And then we come to the planes. And the planes, they're pretty good. The issue is though, these F-15C Eagles, they are super important. That's why we have another 2 vet unit here, just for reliability's sakes. And you can't really afford 4 in the most games anyways. That's more than 4 minutes of income put into something that can only hit other air units. So getting one of them here with upvetted is pretty key to the role, as that's also the one that you want to buy early on. And then you have good ground hitting units. You have the A-10s that can murder tanks and ground units with the main gun. You have the Corsair that can also help out a bit as a helicopter hunter and mock fighter in all its versions, as it has AA missiles on all of them. And the Maverick, obviously good vehicle hunter. Rocket, pretty solid at dealing with light teams, and the Corsair HE to just nuke something. And then we have the maybe most controversial thing at the moment, and it's going to change once they fix the Prowler. But Prowler currently has issues getting its missiles on target and getting its missiles loose, because it currently seems to have a weird issue with its angles at which it can fire. And the Intruder doesn't have that with the strikes, and it's a lot cheaper, the 100 points, and it still does the job of seed that the enemy doesn't want to keep its AA online whilst it's coming in, so that job is fine. And 100 points for the electric warfare is not worth it. Obviously for the extra accuracy and range it could be worth it, but not with the missile currently not performing, so we see the Intruder as the seed plane of choice here. And yeah, the Prowler might come back later, but it's also so expensive. Like, both of these units could maybe go down 10 points in my eyes without it being a massive issue. 10, 20 points. This deck currently still has a cost efficiency issue. So, strengths and weaknesses. Strength, obviously the air tab. It has good forward deployment and a good infantry tab in general. It does have a good recon tab, fantastic recon tab. What it doesn't get is any MBTs, any IFVs, and really any heavy APCs either. So it's you don't have a mechanized force. You have no mech in this deck, and that is a big problem, as currently WARNO is a pretty mechanized game, so having to rely on planes only there is a tough one. But you can do it maybe, and we for sure gonna give it a try in the next rank game that you're gonna see on this channel. And I would like to know what your experience with this deck is so far right now down below, because yeah, I'm struggling. I would like to know if it's the same for you, and what you maybe would change in this. It's really a deck where I'm still debating, but I feel like this is the way to go, or something close to this. It's for sure around the air, because everything else doesn't really win you games in this. So yeah, see you in the next one, guys. Thank you, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.